Oh, is this on? Yeah, this is on. Yeah. You want me to mute it? It doesn't matter. Oh, it should be on now. Because David and Chris are back there. That's what you're saying. She's trying to watch it. Okay. All right. So chapter 11 notes. I'll hand these out. I'll just go ahead and do it now, I guess. You only have 3 on your table. Actually, you just keep 2, and take these, and pass and go circle around that way. Yeah. You only have 2. Did you get? Yeah, 1 for each. Yeah, that's right. Just circle those all the way around and come around this way. Okay. Okay. Now, all right, so let's go ahead and get started into this. And as we do, I'm trying to go with the concept that they got those. So yeah, circle it around. It goes around and yeah. Just keep it going. There's 25 copies, so we got plenty. Having issues. Okay. All right. Listen while I'm trying to talk. Okay. This is next week, so don't worry about this one. This is next week's. All right. This is just pathetic. Trying to hand out papers to adults that haven't been in school in 50 years, you know. Because, yeah, I know. It's waste paper. I know. I hate wasting paper, too. You are supposed to work on it. That's why I give you these things ahead of time so that you can actually work on them. So, what do you need? Oh, do I have an extra? Yeah. Yeah, I don't have an extra 10. Oh, what a mess. Oh, here's a bunch of, okay. It reminds me of once where when I was circuit counselor, and I was helping another church through a call process, and you had to hand out a lot of papers to the call committee, which is usually just the elders, about what each of the candidates, who they are, and all that stuff. And oh my gosh, it was like a zoo. It's like, guys, I give you one, take one, pass it. And they're like, which one do we have? I don't have. You grown man cannot take one sheet and pass the rest. Take one sheet and pass. But, oh, no. Huh? It was my fault. Yes, it was my fault. But it's like, oh, my gosh, how can you not? As long as I know it's my fault, yeah. but it's like, how can you not just know to take one and pass the rest? But it took 10 minutes just to hand out the sheet like we're doing right now, okay? All right, so we'll get started in chapter 10. And as we do, okay, what I started to say earlier is that, last week we were talking about when we get to chapter 10 and all the way through now, this is basically now Solomon saying, I've taught you what to do. I taught you my lessons in 9 chapters. I told you, because he no longer says, listen, my son. So now it's like, all right, now you know. So put into practice the lessons you were taught in chapters 1 through 9. And if you understood the lessons correctly, now as you venture out on your own, in other words, like you're an adult now, and I'm not going to be monitoring what you're doing. So as you venture out on your own, what in the world with that copy?
Well, it was blue paper.
Oh, it's blue paper. Okay. Oh, it's blue paper. That's it. That's why it's so black and blue. It's black and blue. Well,
I contacted, there's a place in St. Robert, it's $150 an hour.
well, it'll only take an hour.
I said, what we charged at ABS was $60 an hour. So anyway, I just got the email back Friday, so
Okay.
sent them any more specifics.
Okay. Well, shoot. That's not good. But hopefully, ABS, but they're closed now, so that's what we're saying. So hopefully, once it would last the whole year. Yeah, because we won't need it. I mean, just get it cleaned and it should be fine. So if we have to pay money once for the cleaning of the copy machine. These people are listening, and we're talking about some other stuff here. Okay. All right. So let's get into the lesson. All right. So hopefully it's like you're prepared, you're ready to know what to do and how to behave. all right, as a godly people. So one other thing to note about this, really two things. One is that when Solomon is talking, we would classify this as a presentation of the third use of the law. All right, do you remember your lessons on the three uses of the law? Curb, mirror, and rule. So I won't ask you to do it because they don't have to repeat everything you say anyway. So curb, mirror, and rule. The third use of the law is as a rule or as a guide. It leads you in the way to live or how to live. All right, so hopefully you already know that. But here's something you have to keep in mind. Not just that, but you also have to keep in mind this point. Just because it tells you how to do it doesn't mean you can do it. Okay? Because we are still sinners. So the law doesn't enable us, it doesn't empower us to do what we're called to do. So we still always need God's grace. So like, for example, when we say, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven in the Lord's Prayer, why are we praying that? We're saying that God help us to do your will, but we're praying because we can't do it by ourselves. We need his help. So as you look through these Proverbs, so this is kind of an overview for everything. So as you look through these Proverbs, always understand that, yeah, I know I should be this way. I know I should, whatever one of these is going to be, I can't think of. Or like verse 12 is a big one. Hatred stirs up dissension, but love covers over all wrong. Okay, and that love covers over all wrong is so important that Peter himself will quote it in his epistle. Love covers over a multitude of sins. All right, he says, yeah, I know I'm supposed to forgive people's sins that done stuff to me. And I know I'm not supposed to be mad at them. Hatred stirs up dissension, but I know that's what I'm supposed to do, but it's just really hard to do that. All right, so that's when we understand that while we're told what we're supposed to do, we always need to understand we need God's help to do it. So when you go through these Proverbs and you come across some of those as like, oh man, I don't know about that one. It's like, okay, hopefully you still understand the truth of the proverb. And now the challenge is for us to conform to the proverb, not for the proverb to adapt to us. Okay, that's what we're also always saying with thy will be done. It's not my will, but thy will. Change me to be like you. So that's what these lessons were about. So always understand that we are to follow God's ways and not at all be wrapped up in the philosophies, traditions, thoughts, opinions, understandings, political correctness of this world.
You mean we can't be legalistic and check off the checklist?
No. Yeah, that's a good point. So don't want to be legalistic about this. Because if you understand the proper use of the third use of the law, is basically saying, as Christians, we want to live a Christian life. But as sinners, we still struggle with that. And as sinners, we still not just struggle with the ability to do it, but we also struggle with the intelligence to know exactly what is the right thing to do. So as sinners, saints, we're in both camps, okay? So as sinners, we have that problem, but as saints, we do want to do it. We have a new will put into us, a new desire, and that desire is to please God. You know, this is Romans 7 all over. The good I want to do, I don't do, okay? But he says the good I want to do. I do as God's child. I do want to live right, but I can't on my own because of the sinfulness within me. So I need two things. I need the wisdom of God and the power of God. Right? So that's where you're getting at, right? So it's not a legalistic thing at all. I mean, and it'd be another way of looking at it would be kind of like this, and hopefully this doesn't happen, but if it does, it's like you got a strange home if this does happen, and it would be a sad home if this were the case, where the kids are basically so afraid of parents that they check off, okay, I did what you told me to do. I did what you told me to do. I did what you told me to do. Don't punish me, okay? Because I did it, okay? That's the legalism thing. I did what I had to do. It's like, basically, are you a child or are you a slave? Okay? No. Okay, yeah. Are you a child or are you a slave? But as a child, we wouldn't hopefully not be so impressive on our kids that they are so deathly afraid of us that we would get in serious trouble just because we messed up one thing. That's not normal. I mean, that's what I'm saying. This is what parenting's supposed to be like. Some parents didn't raise their kids that way, but all right. All right, so you understand the concept here. So we're children of God, and we're trying to live this holy life. All right, and I say that as the concept of being a child of God because that's really how Solomon starts with verse 1. and I'm not going to go through verse by verse here, but notice how he says it. He starts with a wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish son grief to his mother. All right, so if you want to kind of figure out how to do this in some sort of way where we won't get it all done today because it just can't happen, but kind of look at it from this concept. Solomon has just told his sons what to do. Now he says, if you're going to be a wise son, this is it. Now, these are things to do. But just first of all, know, a wise son does what? It brings joy. But a foolish son, and it doesn't matter if mother or father here, but it just kind of brings grief. All right?
I think it does matter, mother or father.
You think it does? That says mother or father?
Say, well, and turn around and walk away. Have the same sorrow as a mother.
Oh, that's true. A mother would take it more personally and heartbroken, right? Potentially. We don't want to stereotype everybody, but you're right. Yeah, I see your point. Yeah, a mother would be more grieved by it than maybe a father would. Father would be more upset.
One would hope that
Yeah.
a child would, because of that mother-child relationship, would have a greater agony from it sooner.
That both would, or would you say now that both would, or just the
But the child would respond faster because the mother is going to be brokenhearted.
Oh yeah. A child, and particularly when it even says a son particularly to you. You know, sometimes there's that attachment, mother's mama's boy, but not mama's boy in a sissy way. But you don't want to disappoint your mother. And I know this is going to sound racist, but it's not meant to be racist. But in the black culture, that was definitely the case because their fathers usually aren't around. Vast majority of fathers, I'm just saying the state of the union, the way it actually is, the vast majority of black fathers are not in the home anymore. So the sons are raised by their mothers, and so you don't want to disappoint your mother. That's kind of inbred in the culture. A Jewish thing too, kind of. Yeah.
That's the way cultures were up till the 60s when women went to work.
Oh yeah, because.
The norm was the quote-unquote stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so right. And they were so yeah, that's the way it was until the women went to work primarily. I'm repeating what you're saying here. So, yeah, that's true because the mothers nurtured the children up until they left home at 18 or whatever. Okay, so that was very, very common then, right? So yeah, you can get that point. You know, we spent about that with the grief, and so to me, the concept here is, if you were to write this up, it says, if you want me to be a proud parent, this is what I would love to see in your life. Be a wise son, or daughter, of course, but he says here son, but be a wise son. Now, why would that make a parent proud? Because if you're a wise child, yeah, but how is that going to be shown? What are you going to be doing in your life that shows you're a wise child? Making good decisions that will do what? Not just keep you safe. And here I'm leading to something because this is what these Proverbs are going to start doing now. If you're a good son, good child, and making the good decisions, it's not keeping you out. It's not just keeping you out of trouble. It's definitely doing that, but you are right. So think of a ripple effect here. Okay, you immediately provide for your parents when they get old, right, Tony? Okay. That's not happening, right? You don't see that coming. You immediately start providing for your parents. But even before that, the ripple effect is that you are now blessing and benefiting others in your circle of influence. Because and that's what these Proverbs are going to be doing. If you're a wise son, you're going to be doing these things. Like, for example, you get one section, I think it's not till chapter 11, where it talks about rulers, about how if you have a wise ruler, how that's a blessing to the nation. Well, if you have a wise father, it'd be a blessing to the family. Okay, so now it'd be a father in that case. But the idea is because your wisdom is being used in such a way that other people are benefiting from it. Yeah. Right.
Which would be honoring your father and mother, taking care of, not lying, any of that.
Yes, you would be obeying the Ten Commandments because there they are. Okay, you're having the proper fear of the Lord, in which you're respecting the Lord as not just as the Lord, but as your Father. Right, and you're following in His ways, doing what He has asked us to do. And honestly, that's a good point, because honestly, I hate to say you had a good point there, but honestly, when you do the Ten Commandments, what happens? Not just you are being blessed, but all those around you are being blessed. Because you're respecting those in authority. You're honoring people's lives. You're respecting their reputation. You're doing all the things that they're doing. So it's always not really about you, because how do you fulfill the commandments is with the one word, love. And love is never self-centered. Love is always other-centered. And so it's always focusing on other people. So that's how this will happen. So, all right, so I kind of spent a long time on that, because I think this is important to understand, because now when we're talking about wisdom here, we're talking about wisdom as such that it's going to, if a whole society is full of wise people, the society will be greatly blessed. There'll be a lot of structure, organization, not chaos and destruction, but a lot of people working together, working for the common good, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so he starts that way, and then now he goes into some of these, again, all these things are kind of real practical stuff, and as you had in the notes last week, it says when it talks about a righteous person, he doesn't ever really define righteous here, as you just have to know. But in the context of it, sometimes righteous will just mean a person who's living a civilly righteous life, which even non-Christians can do that, but he's obviously not talking to them. But this is a person who basically is just living a respectable life within the community. And it's not so this case isn't righteousness that saves, okay? Because the implication is you already have that. Now, there are some cases where it's going to be that way, where it's going to be because the righteous deliver from death, whereas the wicked will die by following this. So there is that times where righteousness will be the what is called forensic righteousness, in this case, that you are declared right before God because of Christ. But other ways, like the next, and I say that because this is what the next verse is going to basically say that. But it can actually mean both things. Ill-gotten treasures are of no value, but righteousness delivers from death. So so you can look at it in a basically, we'll say, a horizontal way, but you can also look at it in a vertical way. And that's the neat thing about the Proverbs. They're not always that specific, and they leave it open for you to kind of look at it in different broader terms. Because when it says righteousness delivers from death, does it mean eternal death? Or does it mean if you live a righteous life, whereas if you got ill-gotten treasures, that's going to ruin your life, but if you live a righteous life, you won't run into trouble in this world. See, it could be both. It could be, but ultimately it's going to be the second one, or the one that delivers you from eternal death, but it could be both. But what you got here is, see, you got verses 2, 3, and 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all of those in some way pertain to manual labor. Basically, if you look at it, and it pertains to how you're living your life in this world, making a living in this world. Like, again, the ill-gotten treasures of verse 2 is like, if you're getting your money through dishonesty, and shady dealing and business deals or something like that, and if you're a business person, but otherwise, even if you're not, if you're kind of shady about the way you do your job that you get paid for doing, eventually it will catch up to you. Right? Like, to me, for example, particularly in small towns, if you are have a business that is obviously dealing with people in the community, you better do what's right, because eventually, if you don't, your word will get out, and you won't have a business anymore, okay? To me, it is always the standard illustration for me is if you're a kind of shady dealer as a mechanic, you may get by with putting shoddy stuff on the car when you're fixing it, but you probably only get by with that once, maybe twice. And after that, word gets out because people ask me, do people ask you who's a good mechanic in town? And what do you say? Don't go there. Okay? So it won't be long before that person's out of business because they don't practice good business practices. So that's ill-gotten treasures. So a wise son is wise because for two reasons. If he wants to keep his business going, that's self-centered, of course, but if you want to keep your business going, you'll do what's right, and you'll be honest and fair in your dealings with others, but you'll also do it for the other person. Okay, and so you benefit other people. All right, so if you keep going through that, again, without looking at all that, you kind of got that. Verse 3 is basically somewhat like that. Verse 4, lazy hands make a man poor, but diligent hands bring wealth. How true is that? You know, if you're just going to be lazy, not do anything, do you expect ever to make it in this world? You may live off welfare, and you may make more money than other people do still, but still, really, do you make it? You know, that way, I guess you can't. I know. People argue both ways, but lazy hands, you don't. And particularly in the time he wrote, if you were lazy in that day, you starve. You know, it's going to come up later, which actually, no, it's in the next one, verse 5. He who gathers crops in summer is a wise son, but he who sleeps during harvest is a disgraceful son. So if you kind of put those two together, it's kind of the same thing. If you're not going to put your hand to the plow when it needs to be put to the plow, don't expect to reap a harvest. And if you don't reap a harvest, you starve. There's no welfare program. And you can't just go to the grocery store and buy it. There's no grocery stores in those days. You better do it yourself or have some means of trading, but that means you do another kind of a job that you can actually trade with someone who does grow the crops. But you better be doing something to earn a living, because if you don't, you're going to die of starvation. Okay, and so you got those comments there. So that's just kind of common sense, of course. But again, he's saying if you're wise, you'll know what to do. And honestly, by the way, another way of looking at this is we could have put on the YouTube video of the birds playing. There is a time, whatever. How's that song go? There's a season for this. I know, but that's what this is. There's a time to plant, a time to harvest. Okay, a time to do this, time to do that. Okay, and Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. And the birds sing that song? Yeah. The reason why I know that is because last week in Houston, they actually played that because they're doing Ecclesiastes studies. And so they said, it was kind of fun. We played this. Someone put it on the TV there, and they played the YouTube video. Not a video, just a song of the. How's the song go? Come on, you guys all know this. For every season. Turn. Yeah, that's it. Reason, turn. Okay, so from Ecclesiastes 3. All right, so, actually, if you go back and looked at it, we won't do it now, Ecclesiastes 3:1-8, if you were to look at that actually fits in with this. This verse particularly about gathering crops in summer and sleep during the harvest, don't sleep during the harvest. That's the kind of thing. You know when, because you can sleep later. So there's a time to sleep and there's a time to work. Okay, so you got to be wise to know that. See, the idea about you got to be wise to be able to do these things. So, so in many ways, as we train our children as they're growing up, but most importantly, we train them in righteousness of God's righteousness, but we also train them in how to live, how to make a living, how to not just how to survive, but how to thrive in this world and to be a productive person in society. And so in this one, too, also, you could even use the common, new common statement, don't work harder, work smarter, right? Because that's kind of what this is also saying. Some people just kind of work hard, but they could get a lot more done if they actually were smarter, okay, and thought about what they're doing, like me. I don't use a lot of power tools because I get nervous about them. I get a lot more done with the power tool than you can. Okay, so it'd be a lot working smarter is better than working harder. But if you put them both together, then you really got it. So that's the concept here. All right. So as you keep moving along here, do you want me to just go through this, or I don't know if you guys even do this homework at all during the week. If you did, I was hoping verses would jump out at you that what does this verse mean? What's about this verse and this and that? But if you don't do any of the homework, then it's just going to be me talking. Okay, it's just the way it is. All right. So we'll move on. Unless interrupt me anytime. But now. These verses, as we said before when we were talking about the background to this section, these proverbs are, let me ask you, are they antithetical, synonymous, or synthetic? Parallelism. Remember the notes we had before? Are they antithetical, synonymous, or synthetic parallelisms? Oh, come on, they're antithetical. Anti means opposed to each other. So these proverbs are such that, like verse 6, blessings crown the head of the righteous, violence overwhelms the mouth of the wicked. So you got a contrast. So in all these cases, if you were to write it up in your own words, you would say, okay, this is this, but on the other hand, this is this. Right? So that's how it would go. So verses 6 and 7 go together. So there is some clumping together of some of these proverbs as kind of vague sometimes and not real precise, but it's still kind of there. So blessings crown the head of the righteous, violence overwhelms the mouth of the wicked. The memory of the righteous will be a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. All right. I know we know of notorious criminals and all that, but generally speaking, who do you tend to remember? Well, I know we remember bad people, but you tend to remember people who have done something memorable in their life, okay? And who have done something that would be of a blessing or advantageous effect to other people. That's why they put statues up for them. They don't put statues up to mass murderers. Okay, and they tear down statues of Lenin and Stalin after they die. They tear down Hitler and they tear down those and all those after they die because the name of the wicked will rot. Now you remember who they are, but you don't remember them in a way that you think fondly of them. So that's what he's saying. The memory of the righteous will be a blessing. And like here, illustration for us, All Saints Day. Okay, who do we remember on All Saints Day? All saints, the good ones, not the notorious sinners, right? Like Judas. We don't say, hey, look at Judas. Okay, what a great guy, and Pontius Pilate and Herod and all those ones. No, we remember the ones. And we remember them because they are also examples. Okay, we're not praying to them or anything like that, like a Roman Catholic thing, but we remember them because they set an example for us to follow. The great cloud of witnesses that we look up to. And so that's, in a way, what Solomon seems to be talking about here. And so, again, not that you do this for self-serving purposes or for notoriety or fame or anything like that, but what will the memory be of you after you're gone? Yeah, that's the point. What will the memory be? And so how are you living that life now? Obviously, you won't be around to know what your memory is, okay, but how are you living your life now that when you are gone and people think about you, they don't say, oh, well, don't mention that name, but they say, oh, yeah, I remember that so-and-so, okay? Understand? All right, moving on then. Yeah, go ahead.
See, we're living in a day and age where even good people are villainized.
Yeah.
Robert E. Lee's statues are coming.
Oh, yeah. Even Abraham Lincoln's statues are coming down, but yeah. The good people are being villainized. That's what you said. Okay, right.
They're virtuous. But
Yeah.
Anyone who's a slave owner.
Yeah, I know. In Washington, yeah.
But then we have other people in contemporary news that you just wish would
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we have flipped it. Our society now has flipped it. Right. It used to not be that way, right? It used to not be that way, but just recently with not COVID, Floyd incident or whatever, that all that going on, that's where things have really taken a dramatic, it was already turning, but it's taken a dramatic turn with all that, where the good guys are the bad guys, the police are now the bad guys, and the bad guys who commit crimes are the good guys. Okay, and you should support them. You should bail them out of jail and have senators bail them out of jail and all that kind of stupidity as if that's a good thing to do. All right, so yeah, you're right. So again, remember the Proverbs are general principles. Okay, so general principles. So in a general way, though, that's not really the case.
No, in
Yeah.
the truth way, that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's just, it exemplifies the fact that Satan's just having a heyday.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Satan is having a heyday with society and the way he's playing with our minds, and of course that is one of the signs of the end times that Jesus gives. Yeah, and Paul does actually, particularly if you go back to 1 Timothy 3 and 4. He goes, in the last days people will be this, all kinds of disobedient, unfaithful, or disobedient parents, ungrateful, and all kinds of stuff. You just have to go through 1 Timothy 3 and 1 Timothy 4, or 2 Timothy. I always get confused, but I think it's first. Anyway, and you have a whole list of things. Yeah. Is it 2 Timothy 3 and 4? Okay. So yeah, that would make more sense because he is talking at the end of his life too. All right. So you got that general concept though about the righteous and that good comes from righteous life. A righteous living, whereas violence and evil come from the wicked. Now, he does point out something here that is important to look at. And back in verse 6, he says, violence overwhelms what? The mouth of the wicked. Okay? And actually, the footnotes will tell you that the word overwhelms should be better, conceals violence. And so, in other words, they hide it, but their mouth is speaking evil. So this would be backbiting, slandering, not to your face, but behind you, and doing stuff to cause a person's reputation to be damaged. So it's kind of an eighth commandment thing, but would actually be destructive. Again, not to your face, but you're talking about people who aren't there, but you're talking evil about them. All right, and so and I say that because this is the section for quite a while. I think it's through verse 23 that much of the Proverbs here will have something to do with your mouth, both in a good way and in a bad way. But it's how you use your mouth. And so we also know it's not, and actually, and that might be more so, it's what we actually say that is probably more damaging in society than what we do. And one of the reasons why is because what you do, you can be arrested for. Certain things you can say. Now, some things you can be arrested for, because Christians speaking as Christians, it's hate crimes for us to say some of the things, but in Canada especially. But generally speaking, you can say something and they can't arrest you because freedom of speech, right? And they can't do something to you. But we all know it's bad. We all know it's evil. What?
Were you not watching any of the January 6th news that was coming out this week?
No, I don't watch the January 6th stuff.
You know, things
Oh, really? Yeah.
that have been concealed that are now, look at this. They didn't tell us about this before. They airbrushed it. We didn't see it.
Yeah.
They augmented what they had shown us before. I mean, it's a perfect example of what
Okay.
you have here.
Yeah. Well, okay, that would be, the how they conceal it, right? Well, you're saying, so evil, wicked conceal their violence and they hide it in their speech because they don't want to own up to it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, they concealed truth. They concealed, the one man who's serving 4 years in prison. They didn't provide his people the actual video footage of the fact that he didn't do anything.
Okay.
Concealed that. The guy's sitting in prison now because
And all the sound that they added to the videos that weren't there.
It wasn't there. They added, okay. Right.
it was just surveillance camera that has no sound.
Right.
They were playing last year.
Yeah. Okay. No, I didn't watch any of that. I usually avoid these kind of things in the news now, but I know. But that is a good example of how the violence now they're using social media and other media but which is still a version of your mouth. Okay. So again, as we go through this, you're going to see those things. All right. So let's move on because we got like the wise in heart accept commands, but a chattering fool comes to nothing. Okay. This is actually kind of funny how this works. Because the word chattering fool here is basically, that's a good way to translate it apparently, but he said it's like the person's all lips. That's really what it says. Person's all lips. Or as we would say, you're all talk. All you do is talk. You just chatter on and on and on. And it's not about silly stuff. You chatter on and on about stuff that's not good and stuff that's not beneficial to others. You just chatter. And so, because that line's going to be used in two more verses too. So it's a line that Solomon liked, and he used it twice. But he says, the wise in heart accept commands. So if you're going to be wise, how will you react when someone is trying to help you and correct you and instruct you? What will you do if you're wise? You'll listen. You won't be chattering, right? See, the chattering fool doesn't listen. And when someone who actually knows what they're talking about is trying to help you with something, again, it can be just business practices. It doesn't have to be spiritual things, which is great when it is, and that's the most important. But it could be just other things. When someone's trying to help you with your bookkeeping, but because you don't know how to do that, you just know how to be a mechanic, and and you just think, don't worry about that, and you just chatter on about something else. It's like, well, okay. You're going to come to ruin because it says you'll come to ruin because nothing's good going to come out of that. So a wise person is humble enough to accept commands. A wise person is wise because he knows he doesn't know it all. He needs to be wiser still. You still have to keep learning. And that's, okay, so that's what that, okay. So the man of integrity walks securely, but he who takes crooked paths will be found out. Another one, and you can think of this in many ways. You can think of it, again, like the business practices. If you try to cover shady dealings or this and that and try to hide it from the government or this and that from your taxes or whatever else, other things or things that would be kind of like you're cutting corners. If you're an electrician, you're cutting corners. You're not doing that things up to code, but you try to hide it. Okay, eventually it will come back to get you. So that's what he's saying, crooked paths will be found out. But it also refers to if you're living that kind of a life when you're kind of sneaking around doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing, and yet you try to hide it, and you're taking these crooked paths, because if you go straight, someone will see what you're doing. So you have to go hide over here, then you have to hide over here. You have to go to get to where you need to go. Can you figure out what I'm saying? Okay, all right. So without me elaborating more, but that's what it's getting at. Whereas a man of integrity, he just goes. He doesn't care who's watching him because he's not hiding anything. He's a man of integrity. He's not worried that someone, what if they check my phone, or what if they check my computer, or what if they check, I don't know what they would check, but what if they check all these things? It's like, it doesn't matter to me because I'm a man of integrity. And it doesn't matter if I get audited. It doesn't matter if someone wants to inspect my business and how I do things, because I do fine. That's what it's getting at. And as people of integrity, as we're called to be of as children of God, this should be our life. Go ahead. I don't have nothing to hide.
There's also a belief that if you follow what you're just saying, that some of your rights will be taken away because they say, okay, it doesn't affect me because I'm honest.
Right.
Go ahead and check my bank account.
Yeah. Well, I know with the corrupt society we have, right? If you want to be honest, say, check everything out. They will find something. They will make up something, or they'll twist.
For other people, it's like they just. If you accept a limitation, not only for yourself, but it's for everybody.
Yeah.
And once they take one thing,
Deprive you of one right, then they deprive you of another right. Yeah. I know. Okay. But again, generally speaking, I know, but generally speaking, particularly in smaller communities, if you're just doing what's right, because our local people are our neighbors, who run things, and they don't really want to come after you. I know, like, for example, when someone called us in on our sausage supper, and, that we're violating health, the local people that come by, they were so embarrassed. They didn't want to do this. They said, but we have to because that's our job. But they hated to do it. And we weren't doing anything wrong, but we weren't doing it by the standards of what the health department said or whatever. So they had to sit here and watch the whole time. That's why we just quit. But they hated it. They were so embarrassed to do that because local people, they don't, small communities like this, they generally want to help you out. Okay, because they knew we were doing all for charity anyway. So that's my illustration there. All right, so we will move on. Okay, he who winks maliciously causes grief, and chattering fool comes to ruin. What does it mean to wink maliciously?
I don't know, but that's now all of a sudden a switch. We're not giving a bad thing.
This is not an antithetical, right? Every once in a while he'll insert a synonymous one, right? So they're not all, for a while, all antithetical, and then the switch suddenly all becomes synonymous. No, you're right. There's a few of them in this chapter that are synonymous or synthetic. Synonymous means just saying the same thing. Synthetic means the next line is adding to the first one. All right. Okay, what? Now in verse 10. Okay, he who winks. So what does it mean to wink maliciously?
Mine says to wink at a fault, so that means that you're going to be complicit in whatever problem it is.
Yeah, you're going.
If you ignore it, you're just as guilty as the person.
Yeah, you'll wink at, it says wink at a fault. So the idea is you're going to kind of, give you the nod. I know it's wrong, but, I'm okay with it too. Okay, so I'm okay. I'll participate with you in this wrong, but I won't come out and say it. I just give you the nod. Okay, what? The little white lie thing. Yeah, I got you. We got this. Yeah, and don't say anything about it. Just kind of let it go. Okay, and then you chatter on. Chattering fool comes to ruin. So you get this concept here that a person who's just kind of still not a man of integrity, because you see how the two verses go together? A man of integrity is going to walk securely. He won't wink at anything wrong. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Wrong is always wrong. It's never right. Okay, always hold that truth. It's always wrong. So he won't wink at it. Because honestly, I think we do this a lot too. If we can sneak by, getting by with something with the law, speed limits and stop signs and other things, we'll just kind of wink at that. Okay. All right, what? Speed suggestion, yeah. The speed suggestion, okay. All right, so there we go. Then moving on. Hatred stirs up dissension. Love covers over all wrong, okay? How do you know if a man, this is one of those where you just watch people. So this would be a good illustration. Now, of course, it applies to yourself, too, but just watch people. How do you know if you want to hang out with the person? Know how he's interacting with other people. As he's interacting with other people, is he stirring up stuff? Hatred stirs up dissension. Is he speaking evil of other people? Is he bad-mouthing, slandering, whatever he's doing? But is he doing something that takes a nice, peaceful scene and just totally disrupts it, and makes it fall apart? And it could be because there has something has been done wrong. It may be a minor thing. It could be a major thing, but it's something. But the one person who is this way will just keep nagging on something, whereas love covers over all wrong. Okay, the word for cover over is the word propitiation. Okay, Jesus is our propitiation. He's our covering. All right, and so Jesus covers over our wrongs. So are we going to cover over other people's wrongs? Or are we just going to keep stirring it up and keep hounding on something that was done wrong? Can we actually take someone's sin that Christ has died for, and can we cover that over? That doesn't mean condone it. It doesn't mean allow them to get by with something they shouldn't be allowed to get by with, but it does mean that can you forgive that and cover over that sin? Because your greater goal is for that person to be saved. This is the woman at the well sermon today, okay? And so that's what you got with something like that, okay? Wisdom found on the lips of the discerning, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks judgment. I guess we'll quit with this one. Okay, wisdom is found on the lips of the discerning, rod for the back of him who lacks judgment. Okay, this would be kind of like a parent or a teacher or even a coach, something like that. Let's say a teacher. Okay, how do you how can you tell apart your students, the good ones from the bad ones? It's pretty easy, right? The good ones will listen, and they'll try to figure out what you're teaching them a lesson. They're going to listen, and they're going to try to discern what you're teaching them. I mean, that's the good ones. Those are the wise ones. And there are students like that. Hopefully you guys were, okay? Come on, you guys were. Okay, hopefully you were. But seriously, I think you guys were, okay? Shannon's gone, so I had to make that. Sorry, I had to make that up. Because the other kind is what?
They deserve a whipping.
That's it. The rod is for the back of the one who lacks judgment. Okay? The only way you're going to get your lesson across to him, beat it into him. That's right. It's through the rod. Okay? But that's the fool. And that wasn't Shannon, okay? I'm just making fun of him, okay? But you know that, right? There are those that the only way you get your message through is beat it into them. And sometimes you have to do that. That's what he's saying. There is a rod of discipline that has to be applied if the person is going to act like a fool. But if he's going to be wise, then you don't do the rod of discipline. You'll be a wise teacher or authority figure. You'll be the wise one to say, oh, okay, you made a mistake, but you want to learn from your mistake, don't you? So I'll help you to learn from it. Instead of just beating you for making the mistake, you're the wise person who's trying to learn from it. Okay, got it? That makes sense? All right, so we'll try to pick it up, verse 14, and now with all the preview stuff that I did today, we can probably go a little bit faster, and again, try to figure out some way to do it as opposed to going just verse by verse. All right, but it would help if you did the homework ahead of time so that you're prepared for it, so you have chapter 11, which we obviously won't get to next week. We'll finish chapter 10. So you have all week to finish chapter 10 and even look over at chapter 11. Yeah. I'm going to find who needs the rod in Bible class. I'm bringing the rod, okay? We'll find out who needs that rod. Line up, okay? That's good. All right, so let's close with prayer. Most blessed Lord, we are so grateful for your word and knowing that your word is a word of wisdom and insight and discernment and helps us to understand your ways as opposed to the ways of this world. And so we pray that you'll give us understanding by your Spirit, that we will know your word, and that we will fully commit ourselves to your word and submit ourselves to the guidance you give us, knowing that through it you will indeed enable us to live the life you call us to live. And we pray that you instill in us a great longing to learn your word more clearly, for obviously we need to learn so much more. So guide us in your Spirit, by your Spirit, and enlighten us to learn more. Through Jesus we ask this. Amen.